Something too, just kind of building on what we've been talking about, helping the next generation navigate healthy relationships isn't just how to identify and address sexual addiction or unwanted compulsive behaviors. It's also, what does it look like to have a healthy relationship? And in your book, you talk about 4 habits for healthy relationships. Can you walk through what those are and how they actually help create a healthy relationship?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, and that's the deal, right? Because we don't want to just point them away from something. We want to point them to something.
Yes.
So understanding what healthy is. And so the 4 habits of healthy relationships highlighted in the book, because obviously there's more, are love and selflessness, mutuality, and communication. And in the book, I used First John and First Corinthians 13 as the backdrop for this particular section. And I think most Christians have learned that the foundation of healthy relationships is Christ-like love, but we don't really grasp what that looks like. Like, give me something tangible.
Mhm.
So in that first chapter, the love chapter, I do use First John to help describe what Christ-like love is and what it looks like during monotonous days filled with stressful decisions. Because that's parenting, right? It's easy to show love when our child gets hurt, but it's not so easy to respond calmly and to respond lovingly when a child spills milk or they need a last minute ride to a basketball game or they confess that they've been watching pornography.
Mhm.
And loving our children really flows from when we receive love directly from God. And First John 4:19 tells us that we love because he first loved
Mhm.
us. That's the foundation of a healthy relationship. True love, a long lasting love, originates from the love embedded within us by God himself. So that's kind of that chapter in a nutshell. The chapter on selflessness examines needs and longings that each person possesses, like love and acceptance and safety and security and
Mhm.
belonging. And it really motivates us to put others first. The mutuality chapter focuses on mutual respect and accountability and trust, and reminding us how to set those healthy boundaries while prioritizing the relationship and
Mhm.
persevering through hardships. So in the mutuality chapter, we talk about red flags and green flags in a relationship because our kids know what that
Mhm.
is. They
Yeah.
know what that means. And we talk about the love languages and really helping our children understand that there's kind of a rhythm of give and take in a healthy relationship. It's not all one-sided. You've got that back and forth and that reciprocity. And then the communication chapter covers various ways that we communicate, and we've kind of been covering some of that throughout our discussion here. And I do offer tips on communicating a little bit better and
Mhm.
give some examples for starting ongoing conversations, especially difficult conversations about
Yeah.
sex and pornography and what our children find online. I think one of the things with communication is that we think that it should come naturally. We should just naturally be able to communicate
Yeah.
well. And
Right.
I don't think that's true. I think it's a learned behavior. And I've had to,
Sure.
over the years, really take some classes and do some research and have discussions with the Holy Spirit on like, what do I do in order to communicate better and well? And I still find myself having to say, keep your mouth shut, don't interrupt, lean forward, don't make that face, things like that, so that
That's good.
we're kind of open and we're allowing for that space for our kids to be able to open up to us and trust us, really, because we want
Mhm.
to create that culture and in that environment in which they really feel comfortable telling us anything.
Yeah.
So that those are the 4 healthy relation
Mm.
or habits of healthy relationships.
Mm.
Yeah, I love what you said at the beginning there, Barb, that we don't want to just direct them away from something, but also to something. And we've talked a lot in this podcast that the opposite of addiction is connection. And if someone is struggling with a very disconnected, disembodied struggle like pornography, it's not just avoid porn, but it's how do we help create connection in their life? And I think as parents with our kids, that's something we should be asking is how am I fostering opportunities for them to connect with me, to connect with their peers, to connect with others in our church community, to connect with other adults, because there's been a lot of research about how significant other faith-filled adults are in the life of our kids choosing faith for themselves, is that they see it not only in mom and dad, but in some of mom and dad's friends or the people that mom and dad hang around with. And so how are we just looking to help them learn to connect and connect well? And especially as we're all, now in this post-COVID era where COVID did create such a society, and in some ways our kids are still growing up in it, where connection only through virtual means is just now so normal for so many people. But that does not create the kind of connection that really fosters a healthy mindset and growth and relationships. And so we have to, I think, as parents, take that proactive nature to say, how do I teach my kid about relationships? Where in the past, we might have felt like, well, that's just a given. Like you just send your kids to school and to camp and they figure out relationships. And it's like, no, a lot of kids are really, really struggling in basic relationship skills because of the world they grew up in with, COVID and smartphones and all of that. We're sitting across the table from another person and carrying on a conversation is not natural. And now, teenagers in general might find that awkward, but how much more so in the era we're growing up in. And so I think for us as parents to just see that and embrace it and say, man, it may be just as important in terms of helping my kids avoid pornography about how I'm helping them connect as it is what I'm doing with their devices and blockers and tracking and all that kind of stuff. That can have a role, but it is like that positive side. And so I'm so thankful that your book goes into that, and think everyone would benefit from wrestling through like, hey, how am I helping my kids grow in these 4 areas?
I think it's an important thing too, that all of these things can be modeled. That, we've heard the like caught versus taught idea. There's a lot that, is caught from our parents, from our family of origin. And the idea that like healthy communication, as you said, is a learned behavior. So if it's modeled, if me as a parent, if I'm modeling what healthy communication looks like, my kid's going to be set up far better than if I don't focus at all on healthy communication. I think, I'll just tell him what to do and he'll do it, versus like, no, watch daddy, watch mommy do this thing. And, also see that we do screw it up. We have to come back and apologize. But just those 4 things, what sticks out to me is that they're all things that can and should be modeled as parents to our kids. Because how many of us have issues as adults because of what wasn't caught from our parents?